Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be tier ranking the most popular fantasy books that I'm aware of. Now I'm going to caveat this by saying that the majority of these books are fantasy romance books, and that is because my main subgenre of fantasy that I read, I guess, is fantasy romance. It's my most read genre of all time, and I can only tier rank books I have actually read. So whilst there are some fantasy titles in here, the majority of them are fantasy romance. I think I'm going to upset some people with this one, but I would love to know if there's any that I rank in this video that you're just like, absolutely not, I completely disagree. Tell me below, let me know what you disagree with. Before we dive straight into the ranking, because I have over 30 books to get through, make sure that you have liked this video and subscribed if you haven't already, particularly if you're a fan of fantasy romance, because that is basically all I talk about. Get yourself a hot beverage and then let's dive in. I have my chart made. Before I start putting any of the books on here, let's talk through the tiers. So at the top we have the God tier. This is quite literally my 6-star reads, the books that I will reach for over and over again, the things I recommend at the top of my lungs, the books I think everybody should be reading if they read within this genre. If we're considering this a star system, God tier is 6 stars. The next tier down is go and read these immediately. These are my 5-star reads. These are the ones that I'm like casually confident about. They're not ones that I'm making my entire personality, but they are ones that I'm really enjoying and that I think you guys might enjoy too. These are ones I recommend with my full chest. After that we have, these were pretty great. Consider this your 4-star reads. These are things I thought were pretty great. I enjoyed them. They were good. Were they perfect? No. Were there things I think could have been better? Sure. Do I still pretty strongly recommend these? I absolutely do. Then we have it's alright. These are the ones that I've quite literally read and been like, they're alright. These are my 3-star reads. These are good in some parts, not so good in others. I don't think you should be running to pick these up, but like if you're interested in the concept, or if you've read the author before, or you just want to give these a go, if they're just like in the back of your brain, sure, give them a read. Next one down is like probs a pass for me on this one. These are books that like weren't so bad that I would just say absolutely no, don't read that. They're books that I might not have enjoyed, but I can recognise how other people could. These are my 2-star reads, the probs pass on this one. And then right at the bottom we have I would not recommend this book to my worst enemy. These are my 1-star DNF'd, why does this book exist kind of books. There are some controversial ones on this list. I'm just going to let you know, I know for a fact that already some of the things I'm going to put in these bottom categories are very popular books. But that's fine, reading is subjective, we all like different things. That's why I'm interested to hear how you would have ranked these books differently down in the comments. But I think we just dive straight in. Okay, the first book we're starting with is The Wolf King by Lauren Palfreyman. I'm going to go ahead and put this straight into go and read this immediately. I haven't included book 2, The Night Prince, in this list, so just consider this to be the whole series. For some series I've included multiple books because I think they rank completely differently, and some if I think the whole series is pretty consistent, I've just given them one ranking. I will say The Night Prince book 2 edges into like God tier, but like not confidently enough that I would move the whole series up or felt that I needed to put The Night Prince on here, so I'm pretty comfortable putting this in though. Go read this immediately. I think The Wolf King is being I was about to say sufficiently hyped, but if anything I think it could be hyped more. This is Scottish inspired wolf shifter fantasy romance with 2 love interests. If you don't like a love triangle trope, this might not be for you. I'm actually quietly hopeful, I was quietly hopeful that this could be a Waichu situation. However, I have pretty firm feelings now on Callum, so maybe I'm not leaning towards that anymore. I am Team Blake if anyone's wondering. This was a super fun, fast-paced read. I honestly think if you're a fantasy romance fan, this should absolutely be on your list of things to read. And actually I would pick this up as soon as you can whilst it's still in hardback, because the hardback in my opinion is beautiful. The next book on the list is again a duology. I have just put the first book on here, but consider this whole duology to have the same ranking. That is One Dark Window, and I'm going to move this straight up to God tier. One Dark Window is so unlike anything I've ever read. I really struggle to make comparisons with this series. When somebody's like, what would you recommend I read if I loved that? I struggle. And I don't think that's because there's like literally nothing ever out there like it, but like it just gives off such atmosphere that I've really struggled to find anything that hits as hard as One Dark Window does, that sits within that gothic romantasy area. Now there's lots of other gothic romantasies that I have rated 5 stars and might even put into this tier, but I just think this one is such a standout in the genre for me. It is a completed duology. You should be reading this immediately if you haven't done already, and it is just like dark, moody, full of yearning, full of like really intricate magic systems, kind of odd and wacky, and I love the world of Blunder, and I love like the mist and the story of the shepherd, like all of it. 6 stars. Also by Rachel Gillig, let's talk about The Night and the Moth. This one for now is going into these were pretty great. Bear with me. I know lots of people prefer this to One Dark Window, and I really did gel with this. In fact, look, I also just like, I gave this 5 stars when I read it. On reflection, I'm not necessarily deducting a star. This is maybe a 4.5 for me, but I'm not quite comfortable just yet bumping it into a 5. Whilst I think this is a probably a must read, probably one you should pick up, I do think without book 2 being out, without that story being complete, it's really difficult for me to judge or really call this a god tier book, just because I don't know how this ends. I don't know what else is happening. I don't know where this story is going. The story so far, pretty great, hence why it's in this category. However, I cannot with my full chest say this is a god tier read, or that you have to read this immediately. When that series finishes, that might change. Also, I should say on all of these, historically, I will have rated all of these books somewhere publicly. If you've seen me give something a 3-star and then I've moved it down to a 2-star, or if I've moved it up to a 4-star in this video, it is simply because after reflection, my feelings have changed. That is okay. Up next is my first, one that I think is going to cause a bit of controversy. The book is Blood of Hercules, and I am putting it in, I would not recommend this book to my worst enemy. I have not been shy about my dislike for this book. This book did me dirty. I was expecting to love this. I was seeing rave reviews. I was hearing it compared to Zodiac Academy. This is hands down one of the worst books I've ever struggled through, in my opinion. That's the important bit here. This is my opinion. If you love this book, I'm really happy for you. I really wanted to love it. It had all the ingredients. I thought I was going to be absolutely obsessed with this. For me, personally, this was like a -5 stars. I feel like I should have some valid critique about this other than just say I didn't like it. Although I think that's perfectly valid. I really didn't vibe with this one. The female main character was the most annoying book character I have ever read. I got up to the bit, if you've read this, there's a scene where she's delusional, I think, from lack of food and water and just exhaustion, and she's flopping around on the floor, calling herself Bertha the Beached Whale, and then afterwards she's taking scalding hot showers, pretending to be one of the founding fathers, even though this is set, I don't think in America, but also in a place and time where the founding fathers might not have. Honestly, I was lost with this one. I didn't even get to the good juicy spicy bits. I checked out probably around the 40% mark on this one. I would not recommend it to my worst enemy. This next one, I'm going to completely go back on something I said earlier, which was I can't really recommend something as a god tier read unless the series is finished. However, the next book is Quicksilver, and it is going into god tier reads. I have read Quicksilver and Brimstone. This is my ranking for both of them as a series so far. This has become my entire personality. I'm just making a cup of tea, thinking about Carrie and Swift. I'm running myself a bath thinking about the Quicksilver pools. I'm eating my dinner thinking about the fact that they called a god's sword Simon. I'm petting my dogs and thinking about Ceres and Kingfisher and their banter. I can't stop thinking about this book. I already want to reread it. I think I read this in December, literally a month or two ago at the point that you're watching this. I can't wait for book 3, but mainly so that I can go back and reread these two and spend more time with these characters. I don't care what rules I made earlier. This one deserves to be in the god tier section. Next up, I have Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I feel lucky that I got to read Fourth Wing just before it came out, and I think before it got that huge rush of hype around it, and I enjoyed this book immensely. I genuinely think the first book is fantastic. I think it was action-packed. I really enjoyed their dynamic. I enjoyed the kind of political elements of the world and the world building that the author set out in this first book. I enjoyed the academy. I enjoyed that it felt a little bit Divergent and some of my other favourite stories. I enjoyed how the dragons worked, the romance, the spice, all fantastic. However, I did feel the need to rate Iron Flame slightly differently, and I'm whacking that in the it's alright category. Iron Flame, I feel really did a disservice to the Fourth Wing series. So much so that I haven't actually gone on to read Onyx Storm yet, and whilst I was very excited about this series and it started to come out quite quickly, yeah, I don't know, Iron Flame really put me off on this one. For me, it was something about Violet's characterization. I think she went to a really catty, jealous character all of a sudden. I didn't really understand her trajectory in this book. And then when Onyx Storm came out, I heard really mixed opinions about Onyx Storm, and they kind of aligned with what I thought about book 2. So for the time being, I've put the series down. This is definitely a temporary put down of this series. I think I am going to pick it back up when the series is complete, just because of how much I loved book 1. I can't rate book 3, I haven't read it. Maybe I would love it, who knows. But when the series is complete and I can sit down and enjoy it as its whole story, I think I am going to dive back into this one, and I did like book 1 enough that I want to read the rest of the series. I'm just not in any immediate rush to pick up Onyx Storm off the back of what I read in Iron Flame, and whilst I'll be pre-ordering book 4 and book 5 and any others if there are any others, I will be waiting, I think, until it's finished now to read the whole thing. So book 1, fantastic. Book 3, it was okay. Up next is one of my favourite books I read in 2025 by one of my favourite authors of all time, so I can guess where this is going to go. I'm putting Shield of Sparrows into the god tier. Again, I'm breaking my rules for this one. This is just book 1. I enjoyed this so much. There was something so unique about the world in this for me. I love the monsters. Look, I've talked about this series at length. If you've heard me talk about this before, you're probably bored of hearing about it. If you haven't, I have officially put it in the God tier. You should absolutely be buying a copy of this book, reading this book, borrowing it from your local library. However you like to consume books, consume this one. Consume it in its entirety, consume it quickly, let it digest for a little bit, maybe consume it again. I just think this one is really good. I don't have much else to say about it. This is in God tier on vibes, but also I do think that the fantasy world was incredible. This won my Court Spicy Books Choice Award for the best fantasy world of 2025. I have nothing else to say about this one other than just like, it's incredible. There's only so many times I can put things in this tier and just go like, I love it, it's great, but I do love it and it is great and I really want everybody to read this one. So if it remotely interests you, please go and get a copy of this book. Up next we have Zodiac Academy, and I'm going to go ahead and put this in the these were pretty great category. If I was rating purely on vibes, this would probably be up one in the go read these immediately. However, I'm going to caveat this because as much as I enjoy this series, and it does mean so much to me, and I've held this series within my heart for about 4 or 5 years at this point. Oh my gosh, is it long? And even I can admit I love the Twisted Sisters, I love this series, I love a lot of their other books as well. Some of this was filler. I didn't need some of this. I didn't need all those multi-POVs right at the end of the series. I didn't need all the spin-off novellas and things that I had to read before. Like, I would have loved this if it was 5 books or 6 books. I think 6 books would have been plenty. 9 books plus like various novellas and like collections of novellas was a lot, but the vibes were immaculate. If I had to rate the series overall, I would give it a 4-star, like for the whole thing. And there are definitely some books in here that are like heart-wrenching and like absolutely a 6-star God tier status, and then there are some that are kind of more like 3 or 4 stars, so overall she's getting a 4-star. I also think I recommend this one pretty heavily if you are wanting to dive into a series that is going to consume your entire life. You're probably going to be reading it forever. This is a good one to go for. But I do caveat this as well with like, I know the series is not going to be for everybody. And like similarly, I think this one is a bit of a Marmite book, a bit like Blood of Hercules, that I desperately hate. I think lots of people would dislike this. They won't get along with the writing style and that's fine. But I know some people like myself that are absolutely obsessed with this world. Dark Fae by the Twisted Sisters, however, is going into, please go and read these immediately. I'm not just counting Dark Fae here, I'm counting all 5 books within the Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac series. This one I absolutely think is better than Zodiac Academy, and I actually always recommend reading this before Zodiac Academy anyway, because these characters do make an appearance later in the Zodiac Academy series, and I think to fully enjoy that you do need to read this first. Consider me a Mindy because I am obsessed with Leon and Elise and all of her other boys, mainly Leon. This is a Y choose, so if Y choose isn't for you, then yeah, maybe sure, go ahead straight into Zodiac Academy. But oh my god, I think this one is so much better. But also this one ended when it should have ended. This one ended at 5 books. This one was like a good length of a series. So for that reason, this does rank higher than Zodiac Academy in my list. Up next, we have Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab, and I'm going to whack this under these were pretty great. I think I actually originally rated this book 5 stars. I think I've been generous there and rounded up from what was like a 4.5-star or a 4-star for me. Honestly, off the back of reading this book, I really enjoyed it, and I do pretty much recommend this one with my full chest. I think it's fantastic, and I think lots of people can really enjoy this book. It's a standalone, which I always love recommending as well. I think I was caught up in the vibes, in the shock, and the drama of it all when I gave this 5 stars. After some reflection, I still think this is a absolutely fantastic book that I do really recommend. I don't think this is one that you should necessarily like go and buy a copy of it today. Pick it up, dump your TBR, put your current read down, pick this up instead. But I do think this is one that should be on your TBR to get to one day. As I said, it was pretty great. Up next, we have The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. Now, again, I'm considering all 4 books that are currently out at the time of me recording this, so the first 2 duologies. And this is going on, go and read these immediately. I'm surprised, I toyed with putting this in God tier. I think I prefer the original duology, Rain and Araya, more than I do Mish and Azar. So maybe if I was being fully fair, I would put Serpent and the Wings of Night in God tier, and then I would put The Fallen and, I don't even know what this book's called. The Songbird and the Heartstone. If I was being completely fair, I would put The Serpent and the Wings of Night in God tier, and I would put The Songbird and the Heart of Stone in go and read these immediately, because I still rated all of these books 5 stars. There is something about Rain and Araya's connection, and I think when you have these series that are either spin-offs that follow a different couple, or they're like duologies that follow different couples, you're just going to have preferences, and I just happen to have a preference for the first couple. There's another example on this list coming up like that, where like one of them is one rating and one of them is another. But I'm just going to consider this whole series. I wish I had gone back in now and added the Songbird and the Heartstone, but I haven't, and I'm not going to. So I'm just going to keep it here for now. I'm sticking with my decision. Just though the first 2 I'd probably rank a bit higher. It's here because like I enjoyed Mish and Azar as a whole collective, as a 4 book. I still really rate this series high. It is a 5-star read for me. I think you should be absolutely picking these books up as soon as you can. Particularly if you like your slightly grittier, darker vampire fantasy romance, this is absolutely on my list of things I'd recommend to you. Next up, by the same author, is Daughter of No Worlds. And again, this is one I've toyed with. I'm actually going to put this under These Were Pretty Great. This is a 4.5 star series for me. I particularly book 2 I think was a little bit, I actually can't remember. Book 1 I definitely loved. Either book 2 or book 3 is a little weaker for me in this trilogy. Overall, love the trilogy, really recommend it. Again, another one I can't think of many things to compare this to. For this one, I think I just connect slightly less with the characters. There wasn't as many side characters that I was obsessed with, and I wasn't quite as engaged in the threat of everything. So even though I really, really enjoyed this one, I think Serpent at the Wings of Night is just more my speed. Next up is When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker, and this is another one that, like, after some reflection, my rating has changed on slightly. This is also going in the These Were Pretty Great category. I really enjoyed this book. Originally I rated this a 5 star. I'm not sure whether I'm necessarily going to change that rating. It has been a few years since I've read this. On reflection, there are some tropes within this I don't always love, and at the time I just kind of ignored them, but the more I think about this, I still love this book. I'm still going to be reading the rest of the series. Book 2 is highly, highly on my list of anticipated books for 2026, and I'm not going to tell you what the trope is because I feel like it might spoil some of the story, but there's a trope in here that I just like. It's fine, it's okay. Sometimes it feels a little overdone. I didn't necessarily mind it in this, but the more I reflect on it, I don't think this was a true 5 stars for me. I think this is definitely more around that 4-star mark. Currently, that might change when book 2 comes out. Still one I loved, but like by no stretch of my imagination is this falling into like my top 10 books ever kind of thing. So that's maybe why I'm putting this on. This was pretty great. You should probably be reading this. I think if you've got this on your bookshelf, definitely be prioritising it, getting it on your TBR. If you see this in a bookstore and you read the back of it and it sounds interesting, then absolutely pick it up. I would recommend it. I do think it's good. I actually preferred this as a dragon fantasy romance over like Iron Flame, as you can see by my helpful chart right here. But I would really, really recommend this one. Maybe just not quite as much as some of those on the God tier and the Go Read These Immediately lists. Up next is Lady of Darkness, and I feel like I'm breaking all of my rules for this one. It is going into go and read these books immediately. I almost put this in God tier. I still might bump it up to God tier. No, I'm sticking with my decision. When this series is complete, it may well move into God tier for me. I'm currently reading this series. I'm actually only on book 2. I'm just about to finish book 2, so I'm just under halfway through. Oh my god, I have become obsessed with this. I can't stop thinking about these characters. We did book 1 as like my book club pick, and I'm so glad we did because this has been on my list for forever. You might actually be able to see behind me, I have a number of editions of this book. I've actually now either pre-ordered more books from the author for a Polycon to finish off her author editions of the series. I already have book 1, but I've ordered like books 2 to 5, and then I've also recently, you might be able to see them, just bought the indie versions of her other series, which is a spin-off, and her new series, the Avonlea series, also I've pre-ordered a number of copies of. I think this is becoming like up there for potentially my series of the year. I just really like this one. Is the series finished? No. Could I drastically change my opinion? Absolutely. The series could go up or down depending on when I finish it. I might have finished it by the time I upload this video, and I might be watching this back after it's been edited, holding my head in my hands, being like, why did I put it there? For now, this is where this is going. I think this is fantastic. I think particularly if you enjoy stories like Throne of Glass, A Court of Thorns and Roses, any kind of those big fantasy, fae-based romances, I think you will devour this. I've heard some criticism that it feels too close to Throne of Glass. I personally don't see that. Do I think Throne of Glass may have been partially an inspiration amongst other titles? Yeah, potentially. Do I think they're too close? I don't. I do think these are separate enough and definitely distinct enough from each other. But like what I mean when I say if you like Throne of Glass, I mean if you like having an assassin main character, for example, if you like similar levels of power and threat in your stories, you might also enjoy this one. And I also like the elements between the both of them of there being like various different types of fae and magical beings in the world. So in Throne of Glass, you've got like shapeshifters, witches, the fae, obviously. This is very similar. We have fae, we have witches, we have night children, which are like vampires. So I really enjoy that like blur and blend of lots of different types of supernatural paranormal beings. Up next is A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen, and for me this is a probably pass on this one. I really wanted to love this. I really enjoyed the Bridge Kingdom duology when it just was the first 2 books. I haven't read the rest of that series. I'm desperate to, but I've kind of been a bit scared too and a bit put off because of how much I did not enjoy this one. I did read the entirety of this book, and this is one that I think, again, at the time I rated slightly higher. The more I think about this book, the more it just wasn't that good for me. And I have friends that are obsessed with this. I feel really bad whenever they start talking about it, and I'm just like, oh, I'm sorry, it just like wasn't, you know, my cup of tea. I don't know what it was specifically about it. The fact that I remember so little about this book, it has not stuck in my brain at all, is maybe the biggest problem. Like, it just wasn't particularly standout or memorable for me. There wasn't enough in it that I cared about for me to really go and like pick book 2 up. I actually now don't have any copies of this book. I got rid of mine. I can see why other people did enjoy this, and I can see see, like, I really enjoyed, for example, the Viking elements of the fantasy, and I wanted a bit more of that. So I can see how other people do really vibe with this one. I don't think it was necessarily like horrifically bad or anything like that. It just was not for me. Up next, we have Blood over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang, and this has to go in God tier. I could never predict how much I was going to love this book. This is another standalone. Oh my god, did this just feel like the best written book I read that year. When I say this book is well written, it was immaculately crafted. M.L. Wang knows how to tell a story and get you invested in those characters and in that world. I was horrified, I was hopeful, I sobbed. I really felt like I was alongside them, living in this world, experiencing everything that was happening in the story. It was just so expertly done. And the fact that this book made me feel so much, I had such an emotional response to this, I think immediately puts it into God tier. Up next we have Diabound, and I'm going to put this in These Were Pretty Great. I read Diabound and The Wolf King really close together, and I think, again, initially I gave Diabound 5 stars, and I'm not necessarily taking away its 5-star credit here, but I think because I read both of them, and they were both wolfy, right next to each other, I can't help but compare them, and for me, The Wolf King was better. They are very, very different books. I'm not saying that these are like exactly the same and you have to pick one. I just like, it was difficult for me reading 2 wolf-based fantasy books right next to each other to not be like, oh, I enjoyed that one more than that one. I will say, obviously, I have more of the story with Wolf King. Diabound is one that I expect may go up or down this list, completely dependent on the events of Furybound Book 2, which is coming out this year. I enjoyed this a lot. I'm not downgrading it all the way to a 4-star. I'm going to give it a 4.5. It just doesn't feel like one that I'm like, go and read it immediately. You have to read it right now. Again, it should absolutely be on your TBR. It should be on your shelf. It should be on your Kindle. It should be on your library borrow list. Wherever you're getting your books from, it should be on that list. I just don't think you need to do it in like the next 3 to 5 business days. You know, I think you could probably wait a couple of months till you get to it, or till the need arises and you're like, I'm in the mood for a wolf fantasy book. Then yes, absolutely, this is a fantastic example of that, and I think you should pick it up. I'm definitely going to upset some people with this next one. This next one is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, and I'm putting it in the probably pass on this one category. I'm sorry, I have no desire to finish this series. I can't remember what I rated this. It's been a while since I've read it. I really, really wanted to like this. It sounded like everything that I love. I'm a big Dark Academia fan. I was like, Light Academia? Let me try it. It has fairies. Cool. It has like a slightly wacky and whimsical main couple, main characters. Phenomenal. This was one of the dullest books I've ever read. I genuinely just like, nothing happens. Some people love this. For some people, this is one of their favourite 5-star reads. I'm really sorry. I'm so happy that you love it. I really wanted to. I was on board with it. I really wanted to dive into this. This, for me, was just like not what I needed, maybe. I don't even know. Every now and again I contemplate going back into this, giving it another go. Maybe I was in the right headspace, maybe I wasn't wanting a cozy fantasy at the time, but every time I'm just like, no, there are literally so many of the things I'd rather be reading right now than Emily Wilde. I'm so sorry. Also, like, the new book from Heather Fawcett looks great as well, but I'm kind of avoiding it on the basis of the fact that I did not enjoy this one. I don't want to set myself up for failure. You know, there's some authors and books that we love, and there's some authors and books that we don't, and that will be different for everybody. There's probably some of the books that are in my God tier, or my like read this immediately, that you're like, really? I DNF'd that, I gave it 1 star. That's what's good about this. But because I didn't enjoy this one so much, I'm just like, why would I dive into her other one if I'm potentially not going to enjoy that one loads either, when I have lots of authors and other books coming up and coming out that I know I'm probably going to like, or I'm really excited to read, or like I've heard really good things about. So yeah, I'm really sorry, Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. You're going in the probably pass on this one category. This next one I don't really feel the need to say too much about. It's Blood and Steel. It's going in the God tier category. This has to be hands down, this is currently rivaling Throne of Glass for my favourite fantasy series of all time. For me to say that after all this time, am I for real? Honestly, I never think anything is going to top Throne of Glass for me, but this comes pretty close. This is fantastic. This has everything that I needed it to have. It really carried me through the whole of 2025. I read this in January 2025, a whole year and a bit ago, and it made it all the way to the end of that year, still being my book of the year. It was phenomenal. I'm craving a reread. I'm desperate to reread this series. I want to do it now. I've got so many things on my TBR that I'm like holding off, but at some point I'm going to crack. I'm going to crack, and I'm going to end back here in this book's arms. I'm going to be safe. I'm going to be comfortable. I'm going to be reading my favourite story, my favourite characters all over again. Like, just, I'm saving this for when I really, really need it, when I need it to bring me out of like the dark pit of a reading slump, or some kind of like, how do I word this? I don't know, I guess like when I'm having a hard time, I'm saving this for like the inevitable hard time I'm going to have at some point this year. This is what is going to save me. This is going to be my light in that moment. So thank you, Blood and Steel. This is my God tier book. In fact, if I could create an extra tier for this one, I probably would. There needs to be like a Throne of Glass tier, and it's just gonna be like Throne of Glass in this up there. If you have not read this one, please go and do so. It is currently in the process of being pulled to be traditionally published, so it's probably going to go dark for a little bit. I don't know. It's still currently available in Kindle format and like some physical formats. Please, please, please go and read it, go and pick it up, or support this book when it gets republished. Please, please. I've got a whole video that I will link somewhere on screen or in the description talking through this world and its reading orders and all the editions that I've got and all that kind of stuff. So if you want to get really nerdy about this series and talk about all the reading orders, I'll leave that. It's a very long video and I get quite emotional in it, but I'll tag it somewhere on screen. Up next, however, is Iron and Embers. Now, this one's going to go into like, this was pretty great. I almost put this in go read these immediately, but I think on my honest reflections on this series, it's definitely a 4 or a 4.5. I really loved it. I still really, really recommend it. When I was saying earlier, sometimes when you have spin-off series or like series where they split and follow different couples, you might just have a natural preference for certain characters. And for me, that is exactly what's happened here. This has the exact same immaculate world building, magic system, like characterization, the politics, like everything the same, to the same quality, to the same standard. With Iron and Embers, I just don't think Ren and Torge hit as hard for me as Thea and Wilder did. This is just purely like my preference based on the characters, the main characters of the story. I just vibed more with Thea and Wilder than I did with Ren and Torge. That's fine. I was still really happy to be back in one of my favourite fantasy worlds. But this one definitely sits around a 4, 4.5 star for me. I think just because I prefer Ren less than Thea, and obviously we're following Ren's story now. So for that reason, Iron and Embers is ending up in These Were Pretty Great. Also adding to These Were Pretty Great is The Ever King by L.J. Andrews. For this, I'm counting The Ever King and The Ever Queen. However, The Mist Thief by L.J. Andrews, I'm popping under... Probs pass on this one. I don't know what it is. I love The Ever King. I love The Ever Queen so much so that I think there's more books coming out in this world. I will be picking them up. I will be pre-ordering them. I will be getting my grabby hands on them. But there was just something about The Mist Thief, and I'm surprised by this because The Mist Thief was a standalone, and I really enjoyed Jonas and Skadi in The Ever King and The Ever Queen. I enjoyed their characters in that story. For some reason, just this one felt a little bit flat. I felt like not a lot happened. I didn't really feel connected to their romance. It didn't really feel like anything was happening or it was going anywhere. I'm not sure, but I still love this series, and I'm still really excited to pick up the next one. Just for me personally, The Mist Thief wasn't as good as The Ever King and The Ever Queen. However, I have friends that would disagree. I have friends that prefer The Mist Thief. For me, I'd probably pass on this one. You probably can't because it's in the story, but like if you could, pass on this one, read The Ever King and The Ever Queen though. Up next, one of my favourite books of all time. I feel like I'm pretty well known for loving this series. This is the From Blood and Ash world by Jennifer L. Armentrout, and I'm putting it on go and read these books immediately. For this, I'm counting everything to do with the From Blood and Ash world except for that Visions of Flesh and Blood, I think it's called. The Compendium of Information, I don't think that's a necessity that you have to go read now. I still think it's a good pick, but like it's not a fiction story. It's kind of just like extra bits of information. It's not like a contained story within itself. However, I am also counting Flesh and Fire within this as well. I think this is great. I think this story is amazing. This would have been in God tier. I think this is maybe slightly too long now. So whilst I have loved the series and I'm comfortable with the series and I'm happy that there's more books coming out and I want to spend more time with these characters, I do feel like, similarly to Zodiac Academy, I would have loved this if it had finished. Like, I think this would be a god tier read if it had finished. For me, it is just slightly too long now, but there is a lot still to explore, so I can see why they're still writing books in this world. I really recommend this one. It is one of my all-time favourite fantasy romances. I think particularly those early books, they just hold such comfort, nostalgia, warmth for me. Like they really took me to a place that I needed to when I was just getting into my reading journey. And I still highly recommend this series, particularly if you're looking for something, again, like Zodiac Academy, that is longer, that you want to dive into and really find something to spend a lot of time with. The From Blood and Ash world by Jennifer L. Armentrout is definitely a good option. Also in Go Read These Immediately, we have the Bloodwing Academy series by Briar Bolin. I'm counting the first 2 books because they're the only ones that are out at the time I'm filming this. I haven't read book 3 yet. It's not out yet. If book 3 is terrible, I'm sorry. But books 1 and 2 are fantastic. These are both 5-star reads. I think this has everything that I needed it to have. It's fast-paced, it's energetic, it's dark academia, it has such a fantastic enemies to lovers romance. I even loved the characters that I think I was supposed to hate. I have a lot of positive things to say about this one. I just think it was a good time. It was fun, it was spicy, it really hit all of the romantic elements that I needed it to hit. And I wasn't expecting to love this one as much as I did. I kind of put this series off for ages. It sounded like passively interesting. It was kind of within my radar. It was within the remit of things that I like, but it just kind of sat somewhere and I was like, I don't really know whether this is like going to be a good one to read or whether I should wait a bit. I didn't wait. I dived in before the series was finished and I'm so happy I did because now I have so much excitement for book 3, which is coming out very soon. I'm going to upset a lot of people with this next one, and that is Alchemy of Secrets by Stephanie Garber, and I'm going to put this under like, it was alright. This is definitely one that my rating has changed with over time. I remember when I first read this, I was like, yeah, perfect, 5 stars, incredible. I remember not knowing what was going on this whole book, and like, whilst I'm still kind of okay with that, actually, am I in a rush to pick up book 2? No, like I'm not actually. I'm probably going to read book 2. I would like to know what happens, but I actually don't think I was obsessed with this as I thought I was initially. Again, I think I was caught up in the drama and the moment and how popular and hyped this was, and I was like, yeah, you know, actually that was really, really great. And it was good. It was alright. The more I reflect on it, the more I just felt like silly. Like I just felt like, why can't I figure out what's happening in this book? Is everybody else as lost as me? Should I be this lost? Should I be understanding what's happening? Am I supposed to be lost? Like, is it okay that I don't know what's happening? Have I missed a chapter? And I just, yeah, that wasn't the most 5-star experience for me. So whilst I enjoyed the story, the characters, I'm probably going to pick up book 2. I don't know, like this one I just really don't think is going to be for everybody. And even though I enjoyed it, this is not going to be one I'm going to go back and reread, I don't think, before book 2 comes out. I don't feel that passionately about it that I am recommending this one lots and lots. Is it a good book? If it's on your TBR, like yes, absolutely get to it. I do think it's very unlike anything else that I've read. Am I jumping in to reread it? Am I like biting at the bit for book 2? I'm not. Up next is An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir, and this is going straight into the God tier. Oh my gosh, is this fantasy series one I still think about like 3 or 4 years after reading it. I genuinely think this is a perfect series. There is nothing I would change about this except for the way my heart breaks every time I read Helen's story. But in fact, I wouldn't even trade that. Again, the way this book makes me feel, the way I connected to these characters, the way that I felt immersed in this world, the way that this story is told, the rebellion and like the military elements, and again, this is quite a political space within this world. I just devoured this. I think this is so underhyped. It's such a spectacular series. It is God tier. You guys should be reading this. If you haven't read it already, go and buy a copy or borrow a copy or get an ebook or get it on your Audible. However you want to consume this, please go and do so immediately. I really think you need to. It is phenomenal. I'm going to upset some people with this next one, and it's The Cruel Prince, and I'm putting it in. I would never recommend this, not even to my worst enemy. Look, I read this whole trilogy. I probably rated it higher than 1 star. But honestly, the more I reflect on this, the more I just think this series is so incredibly overhyped. I really did not vibe with this. I did not like it. I really struggle sometimes where there's like elements of an urban fantasy and more of a traditional fantasy setting, like going between a contemporary world and a fantasy world. I generally don't vibe with. Also, like, I just didn't enjoy the story. I just really didn't. Look, the artwork made me want to read this. Like, the Jude and Carden artwork, phenomenal. The fandom is really doing the most for this one. Did I enjoy the actual books? No, I didn't. I would never recommend this. I know that this one has such a dedicated fandom behind it. I'm definitely going to upset some people, but again, this is just my opinion. You are more than welcome to have a different one, and I know so many people love this one. So many people rate this 5 stars, best series of all time. They're looking for like Jude Carden artwork. They've got like little book clubs, but I know it's a really popular one. I'm so sorry. I just didn't like this one. I did not. Probably didn't give it 1 star, but today it's going in that category. Up next is Anathema, and I'm going to put this into, this was pretty great. I really enjoyed Anathema. I've spoke quite a bit at length about my feelings on Anathema and how I really enjoyed it and vibed with it. However, Eldritch Book 2, going straight into probs pass on this one. I wish I could have passed on this one. I can't, because I am interested in reading Book 3 still. Book 1 was that strong that it carried me through the entirety of Book 2, which I did not enjoy. I'm so sorry. I love Kerry Lake. I love some of her other books so much. Nocticardia is one of my favourite, if not my favourite dark romance ever. What happened in Book 2? I don't know if it was me. I don't know if it was the book. I don't know if it was a combination of the two. We went on a first date and we are never meeting up ever again. In fact, we've just deleted each other's numbers. Book 1 was so good that I do want to finish the story. I do feel compelled to know what happens at the end. Book 2 really did some damage in how much I care about these characters. Book 2 wasn't great for me. If I could pass on it and still understand the story, I probably would have done, but I can't. So you can't actually pass on this one if you want to read it, but that's a category that it's going in. Up next we have Guild, or the Plated Prisoner series. I think I'm going to shock some of you here, but I'm actually going to put this into This Is Pretty Great. This is pretty great. Definitely the latter half of the series I would put into the go read this immediately. But I think as a whole, this series is really, really strong, but again, it's just like that 4.5 star series for me, maybe quite not the 5. I do really love this though. I do really highly recommend it. I recommend it with my full chest. I love these characters. I love this world. I love Queen Melina specifically. Me and Queen Melina I just feel like would be besties. I love the romance. The found family elements are fantastic. There was just something in this for me. It's not quite a 5-star series. It's like a 4.5 star series. It is still fantastic. I still recommend it entirely, and I recommend reading the whole thing. And I think it is a really, really great series. A lot of people would love. So I do recommend this one because I know you guys have heard me talk about this before. It is fantastic. It's just not quite like a God tier or a like drop everything you're doing and go and read it immediately kind of book. But I do think, having said that, it should be on your TBR. You should be getting around to this at some point. Up next is Divine Rivals, and this includes Divine Rivals, Ruthless Vows, and Wild Reverence. It is going up on the God tier. Divine Rivals changed how I looked at literature forever. This book formed me as a person. I have built many a personality trait on this book. I was so lucky that I got to go for afternoon tea with Rebecca Ross last year. I cried afterwards for like a solid half an hour. Rebecca Ross won't be watching this, but if she is, no, I didn't, bestie. I didn't embarrass myself like that. Don't worry about it. There's nothing I can say to encapsulate how much I love this series and how much the series means to me and like what the series did for me. It is poetic and lush and romantic, and there's not a single flaw, not a single thing wrong with this book in my brain. Not a single part of this series is wrong, not correct, not perfect. It is completely perfect. There is nothing wrong with it. There are other series from Rebecca Ross that I love as well that I haven't included in this list, like River Enchanted, the Elements of Cadence duology. Those kind of go within the pretty great category for me, but this series, God tier. Next up we have Immortal Dark by Tigist Germer, and I'm gonna put this one in like, go and read this immediately please. I feel like I've got quiet about this one because I was waiting for book 2 to come out, but honestly the things this did to me the other year, let me tell you about it. I love this. It's Dark Academia with vampires. Like, the yearning and the tension is delicious. There's no spice in this one. It is a YA book, but like, oh my god, that tension, you could cut it with a knife. There is still so much like moments. There's just so many moments between these two. Also, I love the fact that everybody's like morally pitch black. There isn't any morally grey in this. Everybody is very morally dark. And it has that Dark Academia setting that I absolutely adore. I think this is great. I think if you've never read a Dark Academia, this is a great one to start with. I think if you're a seasoned Dark Academia reader, you should have got to this already, so absolutely go and pick it up. This is one that I rated 5 stars so hard that I think you should go and drop whatever you're doing right now and go and pick up a copy of this book. Having said that, I haven't picked up book 2 yet. I'm really scared to. I'm very excited to read book 2. I haven't seen many reviews for a bit. I think this is one of the series that like is not very highly hyped, and I think it should be. It is significantly underhyped, but because I'm not seeing much about book 2, I'm really scared to venture out into it. But I believe in book 2. I think it's going to be incredible. Book 1 certainly was. Next up we have the Crimson Moth duology by Kristen Ciccarelli, and I'm also going to put this in go and read these immediately please. This and Divine Rivals for the longest time have been like my top 2 YA fantasy romance duology recommendations. I think Divine Rival just like kind of beats Crimson Moth slightly. Crimson Moth is great. I think this is a fantastic duology. I really loved it. It's called The Heartless Hunter if you're in the US, and I think some other territories as well. If you're in the UK and Europe, I believe it's called The Crimson Moth everywhere else. Delicious, divine. I loved it. Witch and Witch Hunter, one of my favourite tropes. Enemies to lovers, delicious. I couldn't put this down, and again, I was really lucky at that I got to read these early, and I just remember reading them and being like, oh my god, there's no one for me to talk to about this. It was so good, and there's like nobody's read it. I don't know who's read it. There's nobody to talk to about it. I need to tell everyone how fantastic this is. And I did just that, and it is still up there as one of my most recommended reads that I have for you guys, particularly if you're fans of YA fantasy romance. Next up is The Northwind. I DNF'd this book, and it was so forgettable. I remember nothing about it. It's going in. I wouldn't recommend this to my worst enemy. My friend Laura loves this series. I don't know where my friend Laura and me are differing here. She loves it. I hate it. Like, I couldn't even tell you anything about this book. I DNF'd it that hard. I remember not a single fact. It's kind of like that. I get this one confused with Bride of the Shadow King by Sylvia Mercedes. That one also maybe would be in this category if I'd included it. But I get the two mixed up quite a bit, and I don't know if that's because they're remotely similar. I don't know. There was just, I don't remember this. I don't think it was very good. I was looking back at my reading. I DNF'd this. This is really popular. You guys love it. I've seen so many people raving about this online. Especially now the series is complete. There is 4 books, North, East, West and Southwind. I don't know in much order. Northwind's the first one. And I felt so bad because I got sent a proof of this book. So like I waited until the book came out to talk about it. But like, yeah, I really wanted to like this one, and I did not. And last but not least, we have the fantasy series that got me back into reading as an adult, and that is the Shadow and Bone trilogy by Leigh Bardugo. Now, bear with me. I'm going to put this one into like, meh, it's alright. This is the series that got me back into reading. If you asked me 3 years ago, this would have been a god tier read. What has happened is that naturally, as I have started reading more books, like things have shuffled around. Things that I thought used to be amazing and great, actually on reflection, I'm like, oh, actually I've read things that are much better than that. Like, it's all about perspective, okay? And I have more perspective now. I've read more books. I still hold such a space in my heart for this series. It is honestly, it meant so much to me that this was a series that got me back. I have some beautiful special editions of this series. I still recommend it. I think it's a great read. The TV show did me dirty. I did not like the TV show. I don't recommend that. But the books themselves, beautiful. For me, it was like the first time I'd really felt immersed in a fantasy world and really felt like I knew what was going on with the magic system in like the longest time. So if I was rating this 2 years ago, it would probably be in go and read this immediately, or at least these were pretty great. However, after some reflection, I've read things that are better than this. Like, for example, now I don't particularly read a lot of the friends to lovers trope. I won't talk about the ending of the book, but the ending of the book, I think I would have preferred like something else to happen. So even though I love this and I hold a space for it in my heart and I have such warmth and comfort and nostalgia with this, I did do a reread of it, I think a year or two after I'd been reading lots of other things, and it just didn't quite hit as hard. So I think, again, I got caught up in the drama. I think I probably rated this higher the first time I read it, but it was the first thing that had got me back into reading as an adult. So I'll give it credit where credit is due. This series did the most for me. That was me tier ranking some popular fantasy and fantasy romance books. I already know some of you are fuming. Or you're sat there going, yeah, you know, actually I'd rated that too. Let me know down in the comments if there was any I rated that you like really disagreed with. Did I put something at the bottom that you'd rate as a god tier, or something that I put in a god tier that you DNF'd? One of the fantastic things about books is like all of them have their readers. Their readers are out there. But hopefully these gave you a bit of a snapshot into the things I've enjoyed and the things I necessarily haven't enjoyed. Other than that, it is time for me to wrap up this video. So before I go, make sure you're liking and subscribing. I'm here for you every week with bookish content, particularly around fantasy romance books. But other than that, I will see you in the next one.